There are stories that transform lives. This is one of them. When I was 25, I believed I had everything figured out. My plans were perfect, my future bright, my certainties unshakable. Then, in a single stormy night, I lost everything. My job, my home, the person I loved. I found myself wandering through the mountains, lost, searching for answers the world denied me. That's where I found Master Kenji, an elderly monk who lived in a forgotten temple among century-old bamboo groves. His first words to me were strange. "You've arrived exactly when you were meant to arrive." What I learned during the years I spent with him wasn't what I expected. I didn't find magical formulas or mystical secrets. I discovered something far more powerful. That time is the wisest teacher that exists, and that every moment of pain, every loss, every seemingly endless wait has a purpose that only patience reveals. This is my story, the story of how I learned that time puts everything in its place. Chapter 1. The storm that changed everything. The day my life crumbled began like any other. I remember waking that March morning with a feeling of absolute control. I had an important meeting with investors for my tech startup, had planned my marriage proposal for the weekend, and had just signed the contract for my first apartment. Personal development and professional success went hand in my life, or so I thought. At 3 in the afternoon, the investors withdrew their funding. At 5, I discovered my partner had been embezzling funds. At 7, when I arrived home seeking comfort, I found a farewell note from Elena on the kitchen table. "Sometimes the universe speaks to us in whispers," she wrote, "but you never listened. I need to find my own path, and you need to find yours." The calm mind I had prided myself on disintegrated like sand between my fingers. That night, under a storm that seemed to mirror the chaos inside me, I grabbed my backpack and began walking aimlessly toward the mountains. I wasn't searching for enlightenment. I just wanted to disappear. The rain fell violently, mixing with my tears. I walked for hours along muddy trails, stumbling, falling, getting up only because stopping meant facing the devastation I carried inside. When exhaustion finally overcame my obstinacy, I collapsed under an old pine tree. I closed my eyes hoping the cold and rain would carry me far from that pain. But dawn had other plans. Chapter 2. The Master of Patience. I awoke with sun on my face and the aroma of green tea floating in the air. I opened my eyes and saw an old man sitting before me, with the most serene posture I had ever witnessed. He wore a simple gray kimono and observed me with eyes that seemed to contain centuries of Zen wisdom. Beside him, a small teapot steamed over hot stones. "You've slept 12 hours, he said in a soft voice. "Your body knew what your mind refused to accept. You needed rest. Who are you?" I managed to articulate, my voice hoarse. "I am Kenji, and you are in the garden of my temple." He gestured around us. For the first time, I noticed the perfect rows of bamboo, the small wooden temple on the hill, the Zen garden with its carefully arranged stones. "I need to go," I murmured, trying to stand. Everything hurt. "Where?" His question was simple, but it stopped me cold. I had no answer. Kenji poured tea into 2 ceramic cups. The universe has curious ways of stopping us when we run in the wrong direction. Sometimes it uses personal crises, sometimes it uses storms. It always uses time. "Time has destroyed me," I responded bitterly. "In a single day, I lost everything that mattered." The old man smiled. "Did you lose everything? Or did time simply remove what shouldn't have been there to reveal what truly matters?" His words irritated me. "You don't understand. I had plans, a future. You had illusions," he interrupted gently. "And illusions always vanish when the right moment comes. Stay here a few days. Rest, eat, and if you want, learn." Learn what? To trust in time. To understand that everything arrives when it should arrive, and leaves when it should leave. I don't know why I accepted, Perhaps because I had nowhere else to go. Perhaps because something in his words resonated in a part of me that hadn't completely died yet. Perhaps because, for the first time in years, someone wasn't offering me quick solutions but acceptance and inner peace. That afternoon, Master Kenji showed me a simple room in the temple. "Time is the only teacher who never makes mistakes," he said before leaving. "Tomorrow you'll begin to understand why." Chapter 3. The Garden That Never Ends. My first lesson began at dawn the next day. Kenji woke me gently and led me to the Zen garden behind the temple. It was a rectangular space of white sand, with rocks scattered in patterns that seemed random but emanated a strange harmony. In the master's hand was a wooden rake. "Your job will be to maintain this garden," he said. "Every morning you'll rake it, creating patterns in the sand. It's part of your mindfulness practice." "Just that?" I asked, surprised by the simplicity of the task. "Just that," he confirmed, handing me the rake. "But do it with your full attention. Each line must be deliberate, each pattern conscious." I began with enthusiasm. It was easy, almost mechanical. But after 20 minutes, my back began to ache. After an hour, my arms trembled. The lines I had traced with such care now looked crooked, uneven. "This is useless," I muttered, frustrated. "Tomorrow the wind will erase everything." "What's the point?" Kenji, who had been watching from the shade, approached. "That's precisely the point. You create beauty knowing it's temporary. You work with dedication knowing your work will disappear. And tomorrow you'll begin again." "But then I never finish anything." "Finish," the master smiled. "Personal transformation isn't about finishing. It's about doing. The garden teaches you that the process is all that matters. The result is just an illusion that time takes away." For weeks, I raked that garden every morning. Some days I created elaborate patterns of circular waves. Other days, simple straight lines. There were mornings where I cried while working, thinking about Elena, my failed company, everything I had lost. And the garden absorbed my tears without judgment. One morning, after a month, something strange happened. While raking, my mind fell silent. I wasn't thinking about the past or the future. There was only the sound of the rake in the sand, the sun on my back, the present moment. For the first time since the storm, I felt something like peace. "You're beginning to understand," Kenji said that afternoon. "Time doesn't destroy, time reveals, and you are being revealed layer by layer." Chapter 4. The Lesson of the Bamboo. 2 months after my arrival, Kenji took me to the bamboo forest that surrounded the temple. "I want to show you something," he said, guiding me along a narrow path. We walked until we reached a clearing where a young green bamboo stood alone, surrounded by giants that rose 10 meters above our heads. "When I plant bamboo seeds," the master began, "for the first 5 years nothing visible happens. The shoots seem dead. Many gardeners give up, believing their effort was in vain." He gently touched the young bamboo. "But underground, in the darkness where no one can see, the roots grow. They expand, strengthen, create a network so vast and solid that when the bamboo finally decides to grow, it can rise 30 meters in just 6 weeks." He looked at me intently. "You are like that bamboo now. You believe you're not making progress because you don't see immediate results. But your spiritual growth is happening in places your eyes cannot see." His words resonated deeply. I had been at the temple for months and still woke some nights with anxiety, wondering what I was doing with my life, when I would return to the real world, when my pain would finally disappear. "How long?" I asked. "How long until I feel whole again?" "The wrong question," Kenji responded with his characteristic calm. "It's not about feeling whole again. That person you were no longer exists. Time dissolved them to allow someone new to emerge. Someone wiser, deeper, more real." I sat under the giant bamboo, feeling the weight of his words. "I'm afraid," I admitted, afraid that all this time here is an escape, that when I leave, everything will crumble again. Fear is natural, Kenji said, sitting beside me. But observe this bamboo. Is it afraid of the storm? No, its roots are deep, can bend without breaking. That's what time is building in you, roots. Emotional resilience that no future storm can tear out. We spent the rest of the day in that forest. The master taught me to listen to the sound of wind through the bamboo, a constant murmur that monks call the voice of time. He showed me how each bamboo grows at its own pace, without comparing itself to others, without rushing, trusting in the process. That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. I'm learning that time is not my enemy. It's the gardener of my soul, and it's cultivating something I can't yet see but am beginning to feel. Chapter 5. The Tea Ceremony and Impermanence. In my 4th month at the temple, Kenji decided to teach me the tea ceremony. The Japanese tea ceremony, he explained while preparing the utensils, is meditation in movement. Each gesture has meaning. Each moment is unique and unrepeatable. I watched as he heated the water, purified the instruments, measured the matcha tea with millimetric precision. His movements were slow, deliberate, beautiful in their simplicity. There was no hurry, no distraction, only absolute presence. Now you, he said, inviting me to try. My first efforts were clumsy. I spilled water, mismeasured the tea, forgot the steps. But Kenji showed no impatience. Again, he would simply say. I practiced for weeks. Each day, the ceremony became a bit more fluid. Not because I had memorized the steps, but because I had begun to understand its essence. Each cup of tea is a unique moment in time. You will never prepare exactly that cup again with that water at that moment for that person. This is called Ichigo Ichii, Kenji taught me. One meeting, one opportunity. It means that each moment is unique and will never return. The lesson struck something deep in me. I had spent years of my life running toward the future, planning, anticipating, preparing for moments I imagined were more important than the present. I had been with Elena without really being present, too busy building a future that never came. Time is teaching you to be here, Kenji said, reading my thoughts. Not in the yesterday that's gone, nor in the tomorrow that may never come. Here, now, because this moment is all you truly have. One afternoon, while preparing tea together, I asked, Master, have you ever regretted anything? Lost time. Kenji poured the hot water with his characteristic grace. Regret is the ego complaining that time didn't obey its plans. But time doesn't make mistakes. Every moment I lived, even the painful ones, brought me exactly here. And here is where I need to be. Even suffering has its place? Especially suffering, he replied. It's the fire that burns away the false to reveal the true. Your pain these months wasn't punishment. It was purification. Time used the fire of your emotional crisis to melt the mask you wore, revealing your true face. We drank our tea in silence. And for the first time, I understood that silence wasn't emptiness but fullness. It wasn't absence but total presence. Chapter 6. The Letter I Never Sent. 6 months after my arrival at the temple, Kenji gave me paper and brush. It's time to write a letter, he said, to someone who needs to hear from you. To Elena? I asked, feeling a mixture of hope and pain. To whoever you decide, but write with total honesty. This letter is to liberate, not to trap. I sat before the blank paper for hours. What could I say to Elena? That I missed her? That I forgave her? That I blamed her? All those emotions had been true at different moments during these months. Finally, I began to write, Elena, I've learned that you don't need my forgiveness because you did nothing wrong. You saw what I refused to see. That I had lost myself in my ambition, in my plans, in a future that only existed in my head. I was never present with you. I was never present with myself. Time has taught me that your departure wasn't an ending but a gift. It forced me to stop, to look, to face who I had been and who I wanted to be. Thank you for having the courage I didn't have. I'm not asking you to come back. In fact, I hope you found your path, as I'm finding mine. Time separated us because we needed to grow in different directions. And that's okay. I carry you with me, not as a wound but as a lesson. You taught me, even in your absence, that true love sometimes means letting go and trusting that time knows what it's doing. When I finished, tears ran down my face, but they were different from the tears of that stormy night. These weren't tears of desperation but of liberation. Will you send it? Kenji asked when I showed him the letter. No, I replied after a moment. This letter was for me, not for her. I needed to write it to free myself, not to get a response. The master nodded with approval. Forgiveness and healing don't require the other person to be present. They happen within you in your own time, and when they arrive, they do so completely. That night, I burned the letter in a small ceremony. I watched the words turn to smoke and rise toward the night sky. With them went the resentment, the sadness, the attachment to a past that no longer existed. I felt lighter than ever. Time had done its silent work. It had transformed my pain into understanding, my loss into freedom. Chapter 7. The Disciples Return. At the completion of 1 year since my arrival at the temple, Kenji woke me before dawn. It's time, he said simply. Time for what? For you to return to the world. Your time here has completed its cycle. Panic invaded me. I'm not ready. I still have so much to learn. There will always be more to learn, he responded with a smile. But the temple was your chrysalis, not your destination. The butterfly must fly. We spent that day packing my few belongings and walking through the places that had become sacred to me. The Zen garden, the bamboo forest, the tea room. Each space held memories of inner transformation. What will I do out there? I asked, genuinely uncertain. I'm no longer who I was. I don't know if I fit in that world. You shouldn't fit, Kenji said. You should be. Time has carved you into someone new. Now you must live that new version with authenticity. He handed me a small object, a bamboo seed. When you feel lost, remember this seed. Remember that real growth happens invisibly, in the darkness, in seemingly wasted time. Trust the process. What if everything crumbles again? It will crumble, he responded with unwavering certainty. And it will rebuild, and it will crumble again. That's life, but you now have deep roots. You'll be able to bend without breaking. The next morning, with my backpack on my back and the seed in my pocket, I began the descent from the mountain. Kenji accompanied me to the beginning of the path. One last lesson, he said. Time puts everything in its place, but the place isn't always where you expected. Release your expectations. Embrace what comes. We bowed to each other in respect. When I turned to look at him one last time, he was already walking back to the temple, small against the dawn, but radiating a peace that I now also carried within. The world I returned to was the same, but I was completely different, and that difference changed everything. Chapter 8. What Time Revealed. 5 years have passed since I left Kenji's temple. Today I sit in my own Zen garden, smaller than the master's but equally sacred to me, and reflect on the journey that time wove without me being able to see it as it happened. After descending from the mountain, I didn't return to technology or startups. Instead, I found work at a community center, teaching meditation and wellness to people who, like me, had lost their way. I didn't earn much money, but each day had meaning. 2 years later, I met Yuki at a pottery workshop. She was a ceramicist, and she taught me that creating beauty with your hands was another form of meditation. Our love grew slowly, like bamboo, with deep roots and no rush. I didn't repeat past mistakes. I was present, truly present. Last year, I received a message from Elena. She had married, lived in another city, and had found her purpose working with autistic children. "Thank you for letting me go," she wrote. "Time gave us exactly what we needed." She was right. If she hadn't left, I would never have found Kenji. I would never have learned the lessons that time had reserved for me. I would never have become who I am now. My old company, the one that collapsed that stormy night, turned out to be built on fraud. My partner ended up in prison. If it had succeeded, I would have been entangled in that scandal. Time saved me from a disaster I couldn't even see coming. The apartment I lost was demolished months later due to structural problems. The investment I didn't get would have been with a fund that later collapsed. One by one, the tragedies of that night revealed themselves as disguised protections. Time truly put everything in its place. Now I'm 31 years old. Yuki is pregnant with our first child. I'll teach him about bamboo, about Zen gardens, about impermanence and patience. I'll tell him about Master Kenji and how a storm and a year in the mountains saved my life. A month ago, I returned to the temple to visit Kenji. He was older, more fragile, but his smile was the same. "You've blossomed," he said upon seeing me. "Time did its work. You taught me to trust," I told him, "to wait, to let things unfold." "I taught you nothing," he responded with humility. "I only showed you what time was trying to teach you. I was simply the translator." Before leaving, I planted the bamboo seed he had given me 5 years earlier. "It will take years to grow," I said. "Exactly," Kenji responded. "And when it does, someone else will need to see it. Someone who has lost faith in time. And then they'll understand, as you understood, that waiting isn't passive. It's the space where magic happens." As I write this in my journal, my unborn son kicks in Yuki's womb. I don't know what the future holds for him. There will be storms, losses, moments where everything seems to crumble. But I'll teach him what I learned. That time puts everything in its place. Not always in the place we imagine. Not always when we desire it. But always in the right place at the right time in the right way. We only need the patience and wisdom to trust the process. The storm I thought destroyed me actually freed me. The loss I believed fatal gave me life. The time I thought wasted was the most valuable of all. Time puts everything in its place. And now, finally, I'm at peace with that. The end. Don't rush the river. It knows the way to the sea. Zen proverb.